What is up, guys? It's your boy Rick Kakis, and today, the Root of Nightmares raid, aka Ron, has been released into Destiny 2 via the Lightfall expansion. Contest mode is officially over, and we've seen the god rolls of the new raid loot, and they look absolutely insane. And so that means it's time to farm. So in this video, we're going to be assisting you in your farming journey by going over the different weapons that you can use in order to take down the final raid boss of Ron, Nezarec, as quickly as possible. What is the different gear you can actually use to achieve a one-phase kill. Because, in fact, if you do this fast enough, it's so efficient that killing Nezarec over and over again, if you're consistently getting a one-phase, might be one of the new best spoils of conquest farms in the entire game. And so, let's get started. And first things first, what are the parameters of these tests? Well, we are focusing on weaponry. We didn't want to have someone with the Starfire protocol absolutely spamming fusion grenades and inflating the damage of rocket launchers, for example, because yes, you have a demo rocket with chill clip, that's fantastic, but you're also doing a million damage in fusion grenades, so it definitely throws off the tests. So what we're doing is we're just standing in a well, and for most of these tests, we do have someone just with a divinity in order to get our debuff. On top of that, we're changing the surge mods and reserve mods on our armor to match the element of the weapon we're using to get more ammo and damage from that weapon, which obviously you would do if you're actually using a particular weapon for DPS. So keeping that in mind, we want to test out rocket launchers first. Rocket launchers were by far the most commonly used weapon type when it came to the contest mode runs. It is what we used when we first completed this raid. So how did rocket launchers perform? Well, what we did is, again, we threw on our best hotheads. Hothead overall is the best rocket launcher, or at least considered to be the best legendary rocket launcher in the game at a base level. Importantly though, when you are using rockets, you need to have one person using the GJALLARHORN. The GJALLARHORN itself actually doesn't do that much damage, but it's going to grant Wolfpack rounds to all of the other rocket users, and they are going to do significantly more damage. We thought we'd get an easy bake, because again, this is what we used to kill Nezarec in the contest mode, but turns out, yeah, it actually wasn't as easy as we thought it would be. So it turns out the secret sauce was to just go all in on debuffs. We had our divinity user giving us that consistent debuff, but then we also had our hunters provide a tether for an increase to damage when that was active, and that definitely helped push us over the edge. Then one GJALLARHORN user, and then the other 4 people are using juiced hotheads. With that, we easily got the one phase done, as you can see. Importantly though, even though we say rockets, you're gonna run out of ammo. Right, so you will need a backup weapon. It's something like a rapid fire fusion rifle like you're seeing right here in order to actually finish Nezarec off. So don't just plan on using a rocket and 2 primaries, for example. You will need something else. Now again, if you're absolutely spamming fusion grenades while you're shooting rockets, that's going to help as well, but overall we came away from this rocket launcher test kind of going, well, that was closer than we expected. That wasn't as great of damage as we would have expected from how good of a quality of rocket launcher rolls we actually had, so can we do any better? Turns out we can. We'll come back to rocket launchers in a little bit, but first of all, let's go over some of the more interesting exotic weapons we tested with Nezarec. So, first of all, we did the MERCILESS. So we just showed how something like a rapid fire fusion was a great way to finish off the final chunk of Nezarec's health after you've expended all of your rocket launchers. Well, if you're using a fusion rifle, why not use an exotic fusion rifle? In this case, one that does actually pretty high impact, but will actually speed up its rate of fire for each consecutive shot on a target. And if you're shooting a boss, it means that this thing's rate of fire will go absolutely through the roof. And that's exactly what you can see from the background gameplay. Like, holding on to this thing and shooting it, it felt like a wild animal trying to buck you off, because holy crap, it shoots so darn fast. The problem is that it shoots so fast that, as you can see, we all pretty much ran out of fusion rifle ammo almost immediately. Now, with that being said, we all kind of went, oh, we're out of ammo. But the boss is already well under half health, so we switched to rockets, tried to finish him off, and didn't get the one phase because of course we're using rockets now with no GJALLARHORN, we're all using Merciless, but definitely, although the Merciless doesn't have enough ammo by itself to get the definitive one phase, I think it is absolutely something that you can incorporate into your build. So if you're not someone using the GJALLARHORN, if you're not someone using the Divinity, you're just using your HOTHEAD Legendary Rocket Launcher, honestly, you could easily throw on the Merciless as your backup weapon because holy crap, this thing spits out a lot of damage very fast. But moving on from there, another exotic we wanted to test out is the Rat King. We heard rumors that people took this boss down during contest mode with the Rat King. Like, this is a very strange primary weapon that is going to get a damage boost for how many you have in the fire team. So the first test we did was 5 Rat King users and 1 Divinity user. And so as you can see right here, the Rat King is shooting very, very fast and doing a decent amount of damage, but overall, we almost got the boss to half health. So definitely not bad at all for a primary, but we were thinking, okay, we were using a Divinity there to try to get more damage, but maybe we'd actually get more damage for the 6th Rat King. So all 6 of us for the second test are using the Rat King, and we're getting debuffs via tethers, and in this test, it's about the same. Like, the tethers don't last for that long. With Nezarec jumping up and down and changing positions so often, they aren't that reliable, and so we basically got to the same point of health with 5 or 6 Rat Kings. So overall, again, not an embarrassing performance by any means by this primary weapon, but definitely not something you really want to be using here if you're going for a one phase. Now the next thing we tried out is swords, and we kind of used a different variety of swords. I'm using a Fallen Guillotine with the god roll of Relentless plus Whirlwind. We had a couple of people using the Lament exotic sword as well. I don't vibe with that thing because every time I do a heavy attack, it shoots me completely past the boss for some reason. I am cursed by that weapon, but regardless, as you can see, we almost got the one phase with swords. Like, he is almost there. So we tried a few times, we switched things up, and overall, we would get actually shockingly close every time, but we weren't actually able to get it. Now, this means I have no doubt if everyone was using a Lament that did do the most damage and was perfect with it and had those Elucient Blade mods on and everything like that, you might be able to get the one phase, but honestly guys, it is not consistent at all, and that's mainly because of Nezarec himself. So while you're using swords, the problem is that Nezarec is completely free to attack you, unlike when you're kind of up on the perch. And that means he can consistently slam over and over again, and when he does that, he will suppress you. And as you guys can see, when you're suppressed, it actually removes the ability to heavy attack with your sword. Obviously, this is completely debilitating in terms of damage output, so you're not able to get as many heavy attacks in as you would want to, depending on how often Nezarec slams you. So again, you can have a really, really good damage phase by just getting lucky. You miss a couple of heavy attacks, or he just doesn't do it as much, or sometimes he stands there, doesn't do any attacks, and seems glitched for a little bit. You can capitalize on that, but then other runs, he will slam you over and over and over again, and you'll almost never get a heavy attack off. So again, it's possible, but it's extremely inconsistent, and therefore I don't know I can recommend it. But obviously got to show you the results because they are pretty impressive. Now moving on from there guys, the next thing we're testing out is the 4th Horseman exotic shotgun. We wanted to test shotguns, and the 4th Horseman outputs a ton of DPS. The rate of fire is absurd. Successive shots will cause even more damage. How does that look? Well, against Nezarec, yeah, it actually does do a lot of damage, but unfortunately, the reload kills you. The fact that you need to reload every single shell is brutal, and like, even though we were in a Luna faction, well, you do have to be relatively close to Nezarec, and so he can smack you and push you away, which obviously kills your DPS as well. The result overall was not terrible, but also weren't able to get the one phase with this thing. So moving on from there, the next weapon we wanted to test out here was actually the CLOUDSTRIKE exotic sniper rifle. This is one of the highest damage outputting snipers in the entire game, especially thanks to its new catalyst that gives it triple tap. So how did this thing work? Of course, we're using 5 CLOUDSTRIKEs and 1 Divinity, so we actually have a crit to shoot. And even with the Divinity, it turns out hitting Nezarec's crit, even the bubble, is extremely difficult to do. The problem is that the bubble is kind of at his crotch, to be honest, and his arms will actually wave in front of this Divinity bubble all the time. And then if you hit an arm, it's not a crit. And when you have a weapon like the CLOUDSTRIKE that is completely reliant on getting crits for triple tap and its effect and all that stuff, your damage just tanks whenever you don't get a crit. So it's just not reliable. He's jumping around the entire damage phase. It's just not a weapon I can recommend using for how difficult it is to hit that crit consistently. If you somehow glitch him out so he's not moving, I'm sure you can get significantly more damage, but hey, one damage phase is not every damage phase, so we're looking for consistency here as well. So moving on from there, the next weapon we're testing is the Thunderlord exotic machine gun, another high DPS arc weapon. This also recently got a catalyst that boosted this weapon to the moon. As it shoots a target, it will increase its rate of fire, fantastic for DPS, and cause lightning strikes on the target, fantastic for DPS, and when these lightning strikes occur, the catalyst will reload this weapon automatically. How good is a machine gun really gonna be? Well, it turns out, as you guys can see, extremely good. We nearly got the one phase our first try, so we kept going, and after some tweaks, like you can see right here, literally a sliver missed out on the one phase, so that was just like someone reloaded when they shouldn't have, or didn't throw a single grenade or something like that, we would have got that, but we moved on, we changed a few things up, and as you can see, we did get the Thunderlord one phase on this guy, and Thunderlord is so insane, a lot of us had ammo left over in our Thunderlords to finish this boss up. So Thunderlord can actually get the one phase. Now, it's not perfect. You will need to put on stuff like arc weapon surge. You may need to throw a couple extra grenades, like it's close, but it is actually consistent. Like every single time we either got the one phase or almost got the one phase, and so unlike something like the CLOUDSTRIKE where missing one precision shot can completely tank your damage, the Thunderlord, you're just holding down the trigger and going for the ride. So if you miss a few shots, the next few will hit, and so again, the consistency is actually pretty good, and for a weapon that's as accessible as the Thunderlord, Bungie was literally giving it away with the like arc weapon pack or whatever in Season of the Plunder. A lot of people have this thing, and again, the damage is extremely impressive. So moving on from there, however, let's test another weapon. We wanted to put on our Wendigos, guys. These were available to farm for the very last week before Lightfall came out. A lot of people did because Bungie was buffing grenade launchers by 20% in terms of damage, and the god roll of the Wendigo that the majority of us had was auto-loading holster plus explosive light. So we thought, listen, if we have auto-loading holster, if that's the role we're going for, why not actually use it? So for this test, we have one Divinity, we're using our Wendigos, our grenade launchers, and then we are using another weapon. So a couple of us are using the IZANAGI'S burden and doing that whole like Izzy swapping, and a couple more of us are just using the rapid fire fusion rifles like me. Like I have one with chill clip and autoloading on my Riptide, so I'm literally autoloading back and forth with these two weapons, which is pretty sweet. And as you guys can see, it melts him. Like it actually deletes Nezarec extremely fast. In fact, we were all shocked. This was a better result than we actually got just using pure rocket launchers for how fast we killed him. So no cap, heavy grenade launcher hot swapping is one of the best ways to one phase Nezarec. And the best part, guys, you don't have to have the Wendigo. In fact, the new Season of Defiance heavy grenade launcher that's craftable can get the same role. It can get auto-loading plus explosive. So just use that instead and combine it with either the IZANAGI'S Burden or, again, a rapid-fire fusion rifle or whatever other high damage other weapon you're swapping to in the meantime, and you can absolutely delete Nezarec. Now, of course, this then brought up the question of rocket launchers, right? Because we're like, wait a minute, is hot swapping actually just the play here? So we decided to go sweaty try hard and actually use IZANAGI'S Burden plus a rocket launcher specifically with auto-loading holster. So what we're doing is we're holding reload on the IZANAGI'S to get that honed edge, extra damaging shot. We're shooting that, we're switching to our rocket launcher, we're shooting that, we're going back to the IZANAGI'S, doing a powerful shot, back to the rocket launcher, back to the IZANAGI'S, because in the time it takes you to do the powerful reload for the IZANAGI'S, your rocket launcher will have reloaded, and as you guys can see, absolutely decimated this guy. In fact, after we killed him, we went, wait a minute, no one's using GJALLARHORN. That's right, we took this guy down incredibly fast with one Divinity and then everyone else using IZANAGI plus a HOTHEAD, no GJALLARHORN. So potentially, we could have even done this even faster. And that also means that the gear is actually pretty open, guys. You can hot swap with a good autoloading rocket launcher and potentially then incorporate a GJALLARHORN instead of a Divinity, and then use something like Tether for the debuffs, and perhaps instead of the IZANAGI'S, you go to a rapid fire fusion rifle or something like that that doesn't require as many critical shots. So definitely, I think the play here overall is hot swapping, whether that's between rockets and IZANAGI'S, or again, heavy grenade launchers with autoloading combined with either IZANAGI'S again, or perhaps those rapid fire fusions are going to be incredible for taking Nezarec down fast. Now, there's one last test we did here for old time's sake. The linear heavy fusion rifles were nerfed, but we wanted to try them out, and as you can see, we actually did a reasonable amount of damage, but the same problems plagued us as with the CLOUDSTRIKE. It's just hard to get consistent crits against this guy. So, you know, once in a while, lining up an IZANAGI shot isn't the worst, but if you're relying on them over and over again to trigger stuff like triple tap, they can definitely fall apart. And so, guys, that's it for the video, but obviously we weren't able to test every single weapon in the game. If you guys have more ideas for weapons you'd love to see tested against Nezarec, I'd be open to a part 2. As long as this video does well, so make sure to like and share and subscribe and all that stuff. Spread the info around. Hopefully, you guys can now get those 1 phases more consistently. That is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this informative. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is to follow me on Twitter at @RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always, have a good day.